Today, I want to talk to you about a company called Flock, the Orwellian threat to everybody's safety and security that nobody is talking about. Flock describes themselves as a manufacturer of security hardware, particularly automated license plate recognition software, gunshot location services, video surveillance, and supporting software. Chances are, if you live near any major city in the United States, you've seen these things on poles around town. In truth, though, Flock amounts to a surveillance dragnet powered by AI and even stolen data that operates across 4,000 cities worldwide, operating with little accountability and numerous proven vulnerabilities. Flock's network has already been used by federal agencies to aid in immigration enforcement, often well outside of state laws and local ordinances that govern such cooperation. It has been used by the state of Texas to track down a woman that had an abortion, and in some instances, even by officers to stalk their ex-partners. Flock is also constantly coming out with new pieces of software and hardware that make their system even more dangerous. Before we get into any of that, though, I want to go into how we came to get Flock cameras here in Columbia, Missouri. Because, to put it frankly, a lot of us citizens warned our city council about all of this stuff, and all of it has come to pass. So I think there's an important civic lesson here, and you need to make sure that your local electeds have their eye on the ball and are paying attention to things like this, and don't just hand wave away legitimate concerns because their police department says differently. Let me set the stage for you. This is October of last year, 1 month before the presidential election. Our city council was having a public hearing on whether or not to adopt the Flock camera system here in town. Now, I had put out a press release weeks before with my group Hold Como Accountable, specifically highlighting concerns about how this data from Flock could be illegally obtained to help track down women seeking abortions, people seeking gender-affirming health care, and for immigration enforcement. Other organizations such as the ACLU definitely done the same thing. They were getting emails, and there were plenty of public comments that night that brought up all of these concerns. So I want to show you just a couple of those public comments.
I came here today. Thank you for talking about reproductive health, since I passed by the people who evidently have nothing else to do in their lives and are walking in front of Planned Parenthood every day. I drive to Chicago a lot to visit family. All one of them has to do is report my driver's license to Andrew Bailey, and an investigation could be started, and they would have that information. Now, that paranoid? Maybe. But again, the state of Missouri has tracked women's periods. So I don't think it's too far out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, don't even get me started on how gross that is. 30 days of video tracking vehicle movements through 201 now communities. That's very tempting for Andrew Bailey. We need to pause. Any type of system Columbia uses should not store information for 30 days.
I speak on behalf of the Mid-Missouri Civil Liberties Association. My name is Dan Vietz. Now, a previous speaker said that we have the finest police department in Missouri. I hope that's true. If it is, the proposal is to share with 200 inferior police departments all of the data that we're going to produce if we employ this system. And what Flock would really like is to make this part of their worldwide global network of 4,000 law enforcement agencies. This is straight out of 1984. I mean, if you've read the book or seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. This is straight out of 1984. It will fundamentally change the nature of life in Columbia, giving the government the ability to surveil all of our whereabouts at all times, not just the bad guys, all of us.
That in today's political climate, this is the part that scares me dearly about this, is that there are people all over the country, not just here in Missouri, but who are trying very hard to stop people from seeking reproductive health care and gender-affirming health care, going as far as to attempt to restrict people's interstate travel to do so and prosecute people in some cases. And whether you think that that's unlikely to happen here in Columbia today, it really matters how the political winds blow and who's in charge in Missouri, who wins the presidential election, what the federal government does. That last warning for me ended up being especially prescient because only a month after that city council meeting when we adopted the Flock camera system, Donald Trump was reelected. That's something that I don't think was on the radar of a lot of our council members, and it set the stage for a lot of the clear abuses of Flock that have followed. You'll also notice that a lot of us were especially concerned with Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey and what he might do with that data. Andrew Bailey, if you don't know about him, is one of the most anti-trans politicians out there, anti-LGBTQ politicians out there. Just has a ton of increasingly harebrained schemes that thankfully have no legal merit to them and usually fail in the courts. But he is relentless in how he attacks LGBTQ healthcare here in Missouri. And as of the other day, he is now second in command at the FBI. So, yeah, we were concerned about Andrew Bailey here in Missouri. Now everybody needs to be concerned about Andrew Bailey across the country. Now, let's get into some of the clearly documented abuses and security failures that have happened with Flock in the years since Columbia, Missouri has adopted the system. First, let's look at this article from 404 Media called ICE Taps into Nationwide AI-Enabled Camera Network, Data Shows. The article goes into great detail about how numerous police departments have used Flock's search system to help ICE in their immigration and enforcement removal operations, something that in many cases is directly against state laws and local ordinances. Perhaps what's most concerning is that we only have this information from publicly available audit data from when the officers type in reasons. It's like law enforcement doesn't even care if we know that they're breaking the law here. And that really highlights one of Flock's fatal flaws here, that there's just simply too many back doors. Local departments can opt out of the nationwide or statewide sharing program, but the vast majority of them do not. Here in Columbia, we opt out of the nationwide sharing system, but we do share our data with every other law enforcement agency in Missouri. So even if we have the best intentions and our law enforcement does not want ICE to get this data, all it takes is an officer in another department that has access to our data saying, yeah, sure, go ahead, ICE, take a look at the whole thing. If you think back to the public comments I showed you from our city council meeting, this is exactly what the gentleman from the ACLU was talking about. Even if we have the best, most well-intentioned police department in the world, we're putting our faith in all of the other police departments' hands in Missouri. So as far as ICE having access to this system, as far as Donald Trump becoming president and making all of this stuff much more prescient, and as far as the back door into the system provided by every other law enforcement agency in the state and in the country, we're 3 for 3 so far on problems that we told our city council there would be with Flock, and we're just getting started. Even more concerning is this reporting from a Denver NBC affiliate about how Flock has now given ICE their own account in Flock that could reach out to individual police departments and ask them for access to their data. Next up is this article, also from 404, called A Texas Cop Searched License Plate Cameras Nationwide for a Woman Who Got an Abortion. It explains how this May, a police officer in Texas made a Flock search where he entered the search term "had an abortion, search for female." Now, abortion is illegal in Texas in most forms, but again, Flock operates in states where abortion is legal, and this was searching cameras in those states too, presumably. It's also not hard to imagine how, if the tides change and there's a national abortion ban or something along those lines, that a system like Flock quickly becomes a nightmare for people seeking reproductive health care. Exactly the thing that we warned our city council about. Again. And of course, we can't forget this stunner from the Wichita Eagle about a Kansas police chief that used Flock to stalk his ex-girlfriend, looking her up over 164 times and following her vehicle in and out of town. And those are just some of the abuses that we know about. And unfortunately, Flock isn't even content to leave things as they lie. They're constantly updating their system and coming out with new products, oftentimes involving AI and even stolen data to exponentially magnify the ways that they can abuse our privacy and track us. I want to draw specific attention to this article from 404 about a new Flock product called Nova. And essentially what Nova does is combines Flock's current capabilities with a number of external databases that allows them to search for a number of different things when they get a hit on a car on these license plate readers. So it brings in things like other law enforcement databases, supposed gang affiliation lists, but also data that they've acquired from a variety of other sources. Supposedly in some cases, like credit reports, rental history, all sorts of stuff, including at one point hacked data that they had purchased on the dark web. Now, 404 followed up with subsequent reporting that Flock had decided after an internal meeting that they wouldn't use data obtained on the dark web after all. But again, this was only after 404 exposed this. So it kind of tells you where this company's head is at and what they're thinking as far as what's acceptable and what's not. And they think that it's perfectly acceptable to use hacked data that they've purchased on the dark web up until the moment that a journalist finds out and calls them out on it. And the single most concerning thing that I've seen come out about Flock is this recent article from the ACLU about how Flock now aims to use AI to let the system generate leads about supposed suspicious activity all on its own. That's what brings this into truly Orwellian territory. This is out of control, but what can we do about it? Well, a couple of things. First of all, just raise awareness about it. Share this video, read these articles, share these articles. A few cities across the country have managed to get their city council not to adopt this in the first place. And many more have gotten them to undo it afterwards for many of the reasons that I've cited in this video. I also want to bring attention to a piece of legislation called Citizens Control of Police Surveillance, or CCOPS. It's model legislation provided by the ACLU. It's been passed in a handful of towns across the country, not very many. Columbia is thankfully someplace that we were able to get that passed. I was happy to be a part of pushing for that, and we got it done. What CCOPS does is essentially places broad guardrails for usage of surveillance in a city, and does things like make sure that it has to go before the city council before the police use any new surveillance products, so they can't get it in there without it being voted on, without there being a public hearing. Lots of places this just goes in under the radar, and citizens never even get a chance to decide if they want this used on them. The police department just up and does it. The other thing that CCOPS does is, provide some mechanisms for annual surveillance reports that looks at disparate impact that could happen from the surveillance and things along that nature. It's not a fix-all, but compared to having a free-for-all, CCOPS is the way to go. And if every municipality across the country passed their own version of CCOPS, we would be in a better place than we are now. Now, this was a pretty difficult video for me to make, just as far as how involved it was. This is sort of an aggregation of reporting that I've been reading over the past couple years, combined with my own experiences advocating against this company, Flock, here in Columbia, Missouri. And I would love to be able to make these videos all the time. That's something that I'm trying to do, but, it's hard when I have to worry about other sources of income. And this isn't an advertisement supported channel. I don't plan to ever have it supported by advertisements. I don't plan to look for sponsors. My goal is to make it viewer supported. So if you're interested in helping me towards that goal at all, you can check out my Patreon. It's just patreon.com/Anthony Wilroth. $5 or $10 a month are the two options I have on there. There's no special perks or anything, but anything at all just, helps me keep up the frequency and consistency of these videos and probably build on the quality of them too. So thank you so much for watching. Get out there, get into your communities, and do what you can to advocate for our privacy and against this company, Flock Safety.